goes down to. I don't like taking credit for, I made this state champ, I made this kid great. It's really the kid that makes himself great, and we just, we guide you guys.
With a guy like Jimmy, I've seen him be his own worst enemy in a sense where he's willing to put in the work, but at the same time he can be like a dumb horse and he's just going to work himself to death. How do you approach that sort of kid that just wants to be the best so bad and is willing to do anything and everything, but in doing everything and anything can also be a detriment to his own success? How do you approach that kind of situation, or how do you rein a kid back a little bit?
Yeah, I think, you need the right people in your corner, and you got to trust what they tell you. Jimmy's, he's willing to do anything to be the best, and that's what you have to do. But sometimes we overtrain. I know Jimmy certainly has. I know I certainly did back in the day. Going out and running 15 miles every day isn't the answer, So it's not always do more. It's always, train smart. So maybe Jimmy needs to, stop flipping the tire in the backyard and, go over some video, or look at his, last 5 matches, write down some things. Maybe need a little more mental training, that we didn't have back then. And he needs to go on like the Head Sharp app, So, there's different ways to definitely to work, different things to work on rather than just focus on putting everything you have into, beating your body up, And I think that's what a lot of people do. You feel like, I got to outwork my opponent, which Dan Gable goes back to him saying that you always got to outwork your opponent, which is true. Okay? But, there's working hard and working smart. So,
as you say that, Gene, I can distinctly remember sitting at a restaurant in Minnesota after the Nationals and kind of being there and telling you, I'm going to do this in the offseason. I'm going to work so much harder, put in so much more time. And you looked at me and you're like, that's retarded. You can't do more than you already do. You need to be a little bit smarter about how you do things. And it was those 2 comments you made to me at Nationals that were just like, I kind of need to change my perspective, and the way I'm going about this might not be the right way, and going balls out as hard as I can might not be the answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know Penn State's really big on that, too. The time, Cal Sanderson always talks about the time we put in is quality time, we want to train smart, not just hard.
Smarter, not harder is what I always tell people.
But I do believe in, you do want to outwork your opponent, but there's a lot of ways to do that. It doesn't mean you just go for a 25-mile run every day, There's a lot of ways you can outwork your opponent.
Yeah, I liked what you said about, analyzing tape and breaking things down and specifically working on those techniques. And I think, Jimmy and I talk about it all the time. If only someone had pulled us aside very early on and really expressed to us or showed us the importance of drilling and what level of intensity you need to have in drilling is such a huge thing, because I feel like, at least when I was in high school, for a lot of kids, drilling was just kind of going through the motions and having plastics on and having sweats on and just cutting weight. So the drilling kind of goes by the wayside, and it just let me get to the live wrestling because that's what I want to do. But you're not improving your technique when you're scrapping and you're going live So I really like how guys like you and Mike and some of the other coaches have expressed and shown how important drilling is, and that's where the magic is going to happen. It has nothing to do with the live goes.
Oh, no question, man. And some people, they just get caught up in just the working out aspect, or some people just get caught in just the technique aspect, which I was, guilty of for a few years there. And, you want to be well-rounded as a wrestler. So, I think you got to put a little bit of the right time into each area. And if you know you're weaker in an area, you certainly don't want to ignore it, but work on it. Something I tell to my wrestlers a lot.
So when it goes into setting up a workout or setting up what you're going to teach that day, what is it determined by who shows up to the class, or do you have specific things that maybe you saw during the weekend that you want to work on? How do you structure your daily classes?
I think it depends on what time of year it is, Jim, because like for a club, high school classes are really small come in season. So like in season, I'll do a ton of Q&A, areas they want to work on, and then I'll just, I'll let them get a drill in. We'll tweak things. It's, it's not time. Let's do a hammerlock series. It's not time for that, while they're competing hard. So we'll get a lot of drills in, a lot of speed drills, a lot of Q&A. They have a lot of questions from their matches and things like that. But in the off season, we'll do more learning. I'll show more. I don't write a lesson plan. I used to do that, like when I started coaching. Now I just kind of watch them drill and say, wow, we got to work on this. Or like you said, if we go to a tournament, I'm always evaluating them. They're evaluating themselves, watching video. And, we'll go over, areas where I feel we got to work on. If we bring a whole team and we stink on bottom, we're going to be doing bottom,
So mentioning, not being good on bottom, one thing I've kind of noticed is wrestling became a sport of just wrestling on your feet at a lot of places, a lot of clubs, a lot of practice rooms. And
2 for 1.
Yep.
One thing I always felt that was my edge was I could wrestle on the mat, and it wasn't because the club I was going to or where I was because we were wrestling on the mat. It was just because that was kind of always my strength. What do you think the importance of mat wrestling is, and is that a way that you kind of help a kid who might be on the brink of having success? Like, hey, maybe if we get better on top and bottom, we can turn that corner.
Yeah, no, that's true, man. I agree, especially when you go to college, man. That's where I get a lot of my wrestlers are like, Coach, I can't get off the bottom. I'm getting killed. Everything just changes all of a sudden. But because everybody's beef. But the mat wrestling. Oh my God. Yeah, I actually had a state champion thanks to mat wrestling. I used to do a lot of just feet, and then what really turned me on to mat wrestling was I realized everybody's not fast. Everybody's not slick on their feet, and there's kids that are going to be hammers and win a lot of matches because of their top, like you, Jim. And I had a kid, Brendan Callis, years ago, not too long ago. But Brendan, he wrestled at a Seton Hall prep. He won 2 state titles. And I believe it was his junior year, he chose top every match in the state tournament. And all close matches, all like 1-point matches. But he just rode everybody out. And in the finals, he ended up with a very tough McFadden that he ended up turning. And still chose top. But Brendan, without his top, there's no way he's a state champ. So just, certain kids, you got to learn your kids. It definitely helps for everybody to be great on top, and you certainly have to get off the bottom. We know that.
Yeah, that could be a long 2 minutes if you got nothing in your arsenal.
Or more, first year in college.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's always when you see someone take top, everyone in the crowd kind of looks at each other like, oh, did he just do that? That's always a good ace to have in your back pocket.
Definitely. Especially, college rules, they changed the last few years, and you get that 4-point tilt, and then you hit another one. It's like, holy cow, I'm up 8-10 nothing already,
Yeah. And I would like to see them add riding time to the high school level, and I would also like to see 1 point for every minute.
I agree. Yeah, it's like, why don't they bring some of these things down to high school? Is it, maybe the size of the mat? They don't have college out of bounds rules. I mean, every summer tournament on that, every tournament they have college out of bounds rules. Then we get into regular season with the NJSIA. There's no college out of bounds rules. So, it's like we're preparing the kids for college, but we're not preparing them for college. It's like, make up your mind here.
Right. You got to have that continuity across the board.
You do, yeah, definitely.
Kind of speaking on those rules and having different rules for high school and college, what are your thoughts on, there being scholastic wrestling opposed to just freestyle all year round to kind of, the end goals, obviously, to be an Olympic gold medalist or to take your wrestling to the international level? Do you think there is a hindrance in doing scholastic as much as we do in this country?
I definitely think it could take a step back, but because kids got to focus on that. That's their goal is to be a national champion before it's to be an Olympic champion. Most of them, some of them have that dream when they're younger, but most of them really want to be that national champion. And most of them, the good ones, I forget the stats. I know Wrestling Mindset did it. I know a few years ago, 80-something% of the kids on the podium in New Jersey were in Fargo wrestling. So, a lot of the better kids are wrestling freestyle. How much freestyle? Probably not enough, Jim, because I was just having this conversation the other day. Years ago, before internet and everything, once springtime came, there was a list of freestyle tournaments, like, I'm going to say, like, every weekend, all spring, all the way to Fargo, and there was no such thing at any club called Folkstyle. Everything was freestyle at every club, including mine. So we didn't wrestle a lick of Folkstyle until after Fargo. So times have definitely changed, and I think a lot of it has to do with the internet and people want to make money at tournaments. So here comes, Ward to Shore. Here comes another Folkstyle tournament. Here comes another Folkstyle tournament. And then the list just got shorter and shorter and shorter. And now I think a lot of the lesser kids are intimidated by it, and they just don't want to do it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I feel like it was when I was in high school when they started doing more of those scholastic tournaments in the summer. And, me and some of the guys I trained with, we used to poo-poo those kids that would go to those scholastic tournaments. Like, well, why aren't you on a Rawway this week? Like, we got a freestyle ranking tournament. Like, and then kind of just like going to those scholastic tournaments, a lot of the times kids are wrestling the same kids are going to wrestle during the season, opposed to, you go to a freestyle tournament, you have kids from all over the state there.
Yep. It's like, we preach over and over as club coaches, and some of them listen, you always get the ones that do, but a lot of them don't, and then they hit high school, like, I wish I wrestled more freestyle, you always hear it then.
So being a Jersey guy, we're all Jersey guys here. We all have our region pride, right? I know it's a little different nowadays because they mess the regions up, and it's not the same. Something I'd actually like to get your thoughts on the new region system. But going back to that old format when, you're a Region 5 guy, we're Region 6 guys. In your opinion, throughout time, what has been kind of the toughest region or the most saturated area in New Jersey?
Oh, man, that I saw, I don't want to offend any older guys when, Newton was around and Phillipsburg and Region 1 and all that, but that wasn't my time. So my time, Region 6 was the deepest I ever saw for those few years, your neck of the woods. It was just, there were kids not making states that probably could have been on the state podium, like, one after another. So I don't know what it was those few years, but there were so many kids. I forget. You could probably tell me how many were in state finals or champions at Region 6 a couple of those years, but I never saw anything like it.
I think Scotty's senior year, and I think in '99 they either had 5 or 6 champs.
I was like Molinaro was there and stuff.
Yeah. And even when you and Richie were in high school, we had the super region of 5 and 6, and I remember seeing guys, and Richie experienced this, guys getting 4th and then having to wrestle someone from the other region who got 2nd, and the guy who got 4th winning. I saw that happen a couple times. Richie had to wrestle Esposito, and he didn't know who Esposito was, and, rolling up, having to wrestle him first round of super regions.
Yeah, that's not right. I'm glad they did away with that because technically it's states, but there's no seating. It's like you're screwed. You could have the 2 best kids wrestling each other, first round, So it's good they did away with it.
What are your thoughts on the new way the regions are now, on how they're kind of all over the place and there's not really like a rhyme or reason to who's in what region based on location?
Yeah, man, I don't even think they have a good grasp on it. I think they're still trying to really figure out the best way. That's why it changed again, But site location, that makes sense to change the site location. I was going up to 100 in Central, Region 5. That was most of my guys. I could watch just about all my wrestlers from the area. But now, with geographically, it really doesn't make any sense. I know they're trying to make it more competitive in each region and make it, more even. But, I got kids wrestling in like 5 different regions now, all from my same area. So it's like, it sucks as a club coach. I can't go watch all my kids like I used to, so I hate it, just for that reason alone.
So we're talking about Atlantic City, talking about regions. You had mentioned Ken Rossi before. Ken Rossi versus Pete Peretta is one of my favorite state finals of all time, and so is
some good finals.
And so is Brett Connolly versus, I believe it was Isaiah Cardinelli. He was losing
No, it's Josh Cardinelli, older brother.
Yeah,
I used to train with him a lot too at the Edge. Yeah.
Yeah, so those are kind of the matches I grew up on.
Okay.
Obviously, watching a Jason Nace against Johnny Martin. Those are kind of the the matches that pop out in my head. What are some of your favorite state finals?